Into Payoff Pitch. It is Thursday, August 25th. We are exclusively available, if you found us, on the Action Network YouTube channel. Brendan Glasheen, your host today, joined by two of our baseball guys at Action Network, BJ Cunningham, Anthony Dabbundo. They do a great job logging their picks on the Action Network app and, of course, providing analysis in Major League Baseball as this season continues. We come down the stretch run. Lots of picks and analysis coming. 9-game slate today. We have 3 afternoon games. There is a game starting momentarily. Rays Angels. If you didn't know already, Mike Trout not in the lineup today for the Angels. That was news that broke in the last hour or so. So that's something of note. 3 afternoon games in this 9-game slate. We'll get you set with best bets, player props, and also picks for Guardians Mariners. That should be a good one. That's coming up in a few hours. As always, with us being on YouTube, we have the YouTube chat available to you. So any questions you might have, please get involved, and we'll get to as many questions as possible. Another way to get in the chat is we have a contest for you, those of you that regularly join the program. In the chat, simply choose one player today that is going to hit a home run, and the first person to correctly pick a dinger will win $50, courtesy of Action Network. If you can please include your Twitter handle. If you don't have Twitter, make one. Because, we only allow one guess per person, but if you do indeed guess correctly, we need to find a way to reach you. So don't spam the chat, get your pick in there, and then we will write it down and put it in the important section of our brains. Okay, we're ready. Let's start with best bets. Again, a lot to get to on this show. It's a 9-game slate, so we have a chance to really sink our teeth into it. We will start with Anthony Dabbundo. What is your best bet for today, sir?
Yeah, I think I've got a huge starting pitcher edge. I'm going with the Cubs in the first 5 innings, -110, -115 against the St. Louis Cardinals. Dakota Hudson starting for the Cardinals. He ranks in the bottom 10 amongst pitchers with at least 80 innings pitched this season in strikeout minus walk rate. He has pretty bad command issues on top of having very mediocre stuff. He relies a ton on getting ground balls and playing to an excellent Cardinals defense. And so that does explain some of his overperformance, but not all of it. A lot of fortune has come his way this season, and he has regressed quite a bit even in the last couple of months. Meanwhile, Marcus Stroman, I think he's a little bit better than his numbers indicate. You look at his stuff metric, 106. That's pretty well above average for MLB starters. He typically induces a ton of ground balls as well. And his pitching plus number is above average, whereas Hudson sits at 90, Stroman 101. So I think I've got a considerably better starting pitcher at home in a toss-up. And I'm avoiding the Cubs bullpen because they have been bottom 8 in strikeout minus walk rate. They actually went from one of the most underrated bullpens and best bullpens earlier in the season to they traded their 4 best relievers. Now they're left with a pretty skeleton crew back there. Cardinals do have a better lineup and think they can get to this Cubs bullpen once Stroman comes out. But again, the first 5 innings, I do like the Cubs at home today. Go Cubs, go.
Okay, very good. And for Stroman, his squad did win the last start he pitched in. That was an extra innings game against Milwaukee, but some bad luck for sure, losing a couple of starts in which the Cubs played the Nats here in the month of August. All right, BJ Cunningham, what is your best bet for today on this 9-game slate?
I'm going White Sox, Orioles over 8 runs, -105, there's some -110s out there. 35-year-old Lance Lynn, he's been improving this season. He had a rough start to the season, but his expected ERA is still over 4. He's allowing a 42.5% hard hit rate. His barrel rate is close to 9%. His sweet spot allowed is close to 34%. Those are all career highs for him. And I'll get to Lance Lynn in a second when we get to the props section where I'll actually kind of try to praise him. But the reality is that when hitters are making contact against him, they are hitting the ball really, really hard. And on the other end of the spectrum, you have Jordan Lyles, who I am just flat out sick of this season. The guy has been overperforming. He's starting to regress quite a bit, but his last 2 seasons in Texas, he was over a 5.3 expected ERA and over 40 starts. That's a really large sample size to be that bad. And this season, he's sitting at a 4.85 xERA. Opponents have a 263 expected batting average against him. His barrel rate allowed is almost creeping towards 11%. And he's much like Lynn. He's got a 35% sweet spot percentage allowed. So, the White Sox haven't hit right-handed pitching very well as compared to how they hit lefties. But since the All-Star break, they are top 10 in terms of weighted runs created plus. So I have 9.2 runs projected for this game. So I like over 8 runs at -105.
Anthony, you were nodding your head. Are you in agreement on this pick by BJ?
Yes, I am. I'll get a little bit more into it later, but a total agreement here. The question with Lynn is kind of the fastball velocity and where he's sitting, and he really hasn't come back to peak Lynn necessarily. Yeah, and so I'm a little bit skeptical. And again, love fading Lyles, even if it hasn't necessarily gone that well. I do think that will ultimately pay off for people in the long run.
Jacob deGrom is on the mound today, making his 5th start of the season, his 5th start in the month of August. And that brings us to fading the public. And of course, deGrom's on the mound. And according to the Action Network app, the public loves the Mets and Jacob deGrom. 82% of the bets. That is the total number of bets. And then 63% of the money. So not a glaring number, but of a 9-game slate, this does jump out. So the money's on DeGoat, fine, I'll say it, and the Mets today. That was written for me. I don't particularly think it's fair to mention DeGoat when he's only pitched 5 times this year. But anyway, we'll go to BJ first on this one. Are you fading the public? Are you riding with the Mets? What's the play?
No, I'm going to stay away from even betting the money line at all. I actually kind of like the over 7 runs, -115. Not typically something you'd want to do in a Jacob deGrom start, but you got to look at who he's facing. For Colorado, it's Ryan Feltner, who is a really, really bad starting pitcher. In a little over 50 innings this season, he's got a 5.6 expected ERA, around a 1.6 home run per 9 rate. He's in the bottom 5% of Major League Baseball in expected batting average, expected slugging, and expected weighted on base average allowed. 3 very key metrics when you're trying to grade out a starting pitcher. And listen, the Rockies brought him up from AAA about halfway through the season. Over 50 innings in AAA, he had a 4.9 xFIP. This guy is not a Major League starting pitcher. So, you can say what you will about Jacob deGrom. If he gives up maybe 1 or 2 runs, which he's already done a couple times already this season, this total could easily fly over if the Mets score 6, maybe even 7 runs. I mean, also you look at the Rockies bullpen, and they're bottom 5 in xFIP, K per 9 rate, and left on base percentage. So I think the total's a tad low for Ryan Feltner being on the mound. So I like over 7 runs at -115.
Okay, I'm seeing some -120s, some plus money on the under in relation to BJ's point. How about you, Anthony Dabbundo? Are we riding with the public here, or are we fading DeGoat?
We'll call him the true talent GOAT. How about that? In terms of like best starting pitcher of all time and true talent, even if the longevity isn't quite there. That's where I stand on DeGoat. I have no interest in fading him, but I also have no interest on betting him. Yeah, it probably needs to be workshopped. Favorites of -300 or more are 34-17 this year straight up, which sounds cool, but then you do the math and you realize you're pretty much in the negative there. You're down about 7-8 units roughly by betting all of those big money line favorites. And the huge underdogs have done well this year. And the Mets offense is much improved this season. They put a lot more balls in play. Their weighted runs created plus, top 5 in the league. And so I do expect them to get to Feltner and have no problems winning this game, but it is very hard for you to ever convince me to lay the kind of juice you need to lay on a pitcher, even as good as Jacob deGrom. Over 5 innings, all it takes is 1 or 2 weird bounces, errors, or one guy to barrel him up, and a lot of things can change. So I'm going to be passing on this game entirely. Like BJ said, I agree with him on Feltner. Nothing looks good in his profile. I kind of wish this game was at Coors because I think it would be a good under game, but ultimately going to go and pass.
Well, the good news is bad bounces have never happened in a Jacob deGrom start. So
that's true, and that is the notorious deGrom thing. Mets fans will tell you that the Mets will probably only score 1 run of run support, and he did make a similar start against a bad lineup in Washington, and they lost the first 5. He gave up 1 homer, and that was it. So, I'm passing.
It's a good point. Mets are 2-2 in his 4 starts, and the highest run total in the 4 starts is 7 runs. That was against the Braves back on August 7th. So, yes, there have not been many high-scoring games.
Yeah, they scored 1 run against the Phillies, and I think 2 runs against the Nationals.
Makes my
that's all random variance, but it is interesting that it continuously seems to happen to him.
Yes, 1 against the Nats, 5 against the Braves, and the 5-2 win that I just referenced, the 1-0 shutout win over the Phillies, and then last time out, August 18th against Atlanta, a 3-2 loss for the Mets. So we shall see how that looks. Again, if you just saw on your screen, you can get the Mets at +330, some +340s out there as well today on this slate with Jacob deGrom on the mound. And as Anthony mentioned, this is not a Coors Field. This game is in New York. Yeah. Okay, very good. As a reminder, if you have questions, concerns about this slate, get involved in the YouTube chat. We will take your questions as the first game of the day nears. Rays Angels. That should be starting momentarily. We don't have the Rays or Angels in best bets. Actually, we will. Well, we have something coming. And we'll get to that in just a second because I think there might be a chance to get involved with this, even in a live situation. But yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Let's go to player props first as we look at the Action Network Pro model. The model's highest rated prop on the board today, Justin Dunn, over 4.5 strikeouts. Our pro model projects him for 5.6 strikeouts today. It leads us to asking the gents here their favorite prop on the board. BJ, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I spoke about it in White Sox Orioles. I'm going Lance Lynn over 5.5 strikeouts at even money. I mean, listen, when he's been getting hit, he's been getting hit hard, but he also has been getting a lot of swings and misses. His K per 9 rate is sitting at 9.46. He throws a couple pitches that the Orioles really struggle against. I mean, Lynn is about as straightforward as it comes with a starting pitcher. It's a fastball, sinker, cutter. There's really no off speed with him. But that's actually going to be okay against the Orioles because they have a minus 4.3 run value against those three pitches. Baltimore also third highest chase rate in baseball. They have the fifth highest whiff rate. And Lynn has gone over 5.5 strikeouts in 6 of his last 7 starts. And if we do a little math and we take the average number of batters that Lynn faces per start, which is 23.5, multiplied by his K percentage of 24.5%, we get a projection of about 5.75. And the Orioles are right around the MLB average, so we wouldn't make any adjustments for his K percentage. So I think you're getting a little value on Lynn over 5.5 strikeouts. He might get hit hard, but hey, he'll also get some swings and misses.
Okay, I love the love for Lance Lynn, the 35-year-old, as you said before. Okay, Anthony, what about you? How about a prop for today? You have to say it how you wrote it.
We're going to go with the Lars Nootbaar, over 1.5 bases at plus 120. I just mentioned how much I like Marcus Stroman, but I also even more like what Lars Nootbaar has been doing for the St. Louis Cardinals. His barrel rate in the month of August, that's hard hit balls at a certain launch angle, 14%. Anything over 10 is considered pretty impressive for power. And his strikeout rate has gone down this month. His hard hit rate over 50%. He's changed some things, tweaked some things, been working on it, and made significant improvements at the top of the lineup. And he's batting first for the Cardinals, a sign of how much they respect him as a hitter, given how deep their lineup runs with average to above average guys. He has put himself at the top of that list, and I love Nootbaar, over 1.5 bases at plus 120. The
Nootbaar sounds like a very healthy nutrition bar.
Yeah, I agree.
It doesn't sound delicious, but the way Anthony delivered that, it was well done. It made me feel
grams of sugar,
yeah,
high in fiber. Yeah, I agree.
This will fill you up, and
he's gonna hit a double into the right field corner at Wrigley today to cash. Maybe to lead off the game. Even that would be a really, but then the Cardinals will strand him, and the Cubs will win the first 5 innings.
Okay. Real quick on that. We're actually looking at the YouTube chat now. Andrew chimes in. I somehow got Cubs first 5 plus a half a run at plus 120 on WinBet 30 minutes ago. Are you guys?
Yeah, that's
really
a weird line. That's a mispriced. Nice of you to pick that off. I mean, that's half of the game, right? Is having multiple outs and being able to spot bad lines and capitalize on them. So good on you. That's a really, really bad number. That should be closer to minus 140, 50.
Okay. Good stuff, Andrew. As a reminder, if you're just tuning in, we have a contest if you're watching. Simply choose one player today that will hit a home run, and the first person to correctly pick a dinger will win $50, courtesy of Action Network. Only one guest per person, so please do not spam the chat. We see you. We hear you. We understand you. If you have any questions as well, feel free to ask. As Andrew just pointed out, we see another question about Guardians Mariners. We'll get to that. Before we move on, Anthony Dabbundo, the game has started, but the player you think could homer today is in the lineup for the Rays. Just give us your 30-second take on Christian Bethancourt.
Yeah, so if you read my Dinger Tuesday column, you know what I look for when it comes to trying to predict who's going to hit home runs and looking at comparing across books. Christian Bethancourt, 17% barrel rate in August. That's extremely impressive. And he went through a little bit of a slump, but he's back to what he was doing earlier in the year in Oakland. But now he gets a somewhat more favorable home run environment for the Rays. I like Bethancourt, especially against Sandoval, who is due for some regression in terms of home runs. He has been very fortunate with his fly balls this year, not leaving the yard. I think Bethancourt's worth a shot. I don't know if they offer live home run odds. I should have said this before, but 6-1 is an interesting price on him.
Yeah, I know the timing of that wasn't our best, but Bethancourt today is batting 6th for the Rays. So maybe there's a live opportunity, and the Angels are still up. So that's why I think that was still worth getting that in there if you have an opportunity to get involved. Okay, very good. Let's move on. Guardians Mariners, as the chat requested, they want to find out how we feel about this game today. Guardians Mariners is our game of the day that we are highlighting on today's slate. It starts at 4:10 Eastern time. Guardians favored slightly at -115. Mariners at -105. How are we leaning in this game, BJ Cunningham?
Yeah, I like the the Guardians for the first 5.
Come on, dude. It's August. You haven't picked this up yet?
I know. I was thinking, you know what? I was watching Major League the other day, and that's why it came to my head. But no, Guardians first 5, -115. I mean, Tristan McKenzie coming off the incredible 14 strikeout performance against the White Sox in his last outing. I mean, for the season, he's been the Guardians' best starting pitcher outside of Shane Bieber. 3.81 xERA, 3.85 xFIP, very low 6.4% walk rate. He only has a 3-pitch arsenal of fastball, slider, and curveball. He'll need to utilize his slider and his curveball pretty often because the Mariners are pretty much just a one-trick pony. They can only have fastballs, and that's about it. But his curveball is really, really nasty, only allowing a 185 x-weighted on-base average and producing almost a 46% whiff rate. That's pretty great. And Marco Gonzalez, once again, is overperforming. I know that's a shocker. His ERA is at 4.08. His xERA is at 4.65. xFIP sitting at 4.92. He's allowing almost a 275 expected batting average, for almost a 450 expected slugging, bottom 15% in a lot of metrics across, among qualified starting pitchers. Cleveland doesn't hit left-handed pitching that well, but I think they'll be able to get to Gonzalez because he's given up 27 earned runs in his last 7 starts. And, I have McKenzie and the Guardians projected at -139. So I like the value on them for the first 5 innings at -115.
Excellent. All right. How about you, Anthony? How are you playing this game, if at all?
Yeah, I bet the under 8 at -115. I know, that sounds crazy because we've talked about Marco negative regression and whatnot, but I love both of these bullpens, and I think they're both top 5, 6 bullpens in all of baseball. And so once we get into those bullpens, I think you're going to see a real heavy shutdown of these lineups. Also, Cleveland, BJ did mention it, their splits against left-handed pitching are significantly worse. They do strike out more. Their weighted runs created plus below average against lefties. So I think Marco might be able to luck his way into some more, weak contact outs, which is what Cleveland tends to do when they face left-handed pitching. Also, McKenzie is somebody I wrote that I was looking to fade. That didn't age well. Back in the All-Star break. And a lot of it had to do with his hard hit rate, his barrel rate, his stuff, right? His stuff was kind of mediocre at the time, according to his model, and his barrel rate and hard hit average exit velocity was one of the worst in baseball. But he's clearly changed something because his stuff plus has now gone way up in the last 2 months, and that shows in the whiff rates that have gone way up. So he's clearly doing something to miss more bats. Maybe it is more curveball usage. Maybe his fastball is getting a little bit more ride on it, but he is doing something to get more swings and misses, and I think that makes him an effective, pitcher in a good hitter's or pitcher's ballpark to go for the under 8 runs in this game.
And he's pitched really well against good teams: Houston, Toronto this month. The
White Sox are okay. Yeah,
that's stupid team. Since the break, he's pitched really well. I mean, he's won both times against the White Sox for what it's worth. So I guess we'll mention the White Sox in that. Okay, again, we see your home run picks in the YouTube chat. Those have been logged, except Tanner. Come on, Tanner, get out of here, dude. Aaron Judge is a pick by David. Kevin likes Ian Happ. Goldschmidt, Andrew chimes in. And Chris has Vlad Guerrero Jr. Very good. All righty, before we wrap today's show, again, thank you all for joining us. Be sure to download the Action Network app because especially with these afternoon games, guys might, guys like BJ and Anthony, they might be getting involved later in the day, possibly, but usually they get their picks out well and early. But yes, keep an eye on the app for all of our expert picks for later in the day. The rest of our analysts as well. These aren't the only 2 guys that are picking baseball. But before we go, let's go around the diamond. One more pick from each of the guys in just a couple sentences or less, the amount of time it takes to turn a double play. We'll go BJ first and then Anthony.
I'll go Oakland plus 188 against the Yankees. I mean, Taillon's a 4.1 xERA guy. I can't get even more projected even more close to -205, especially the Yankees, the way they've been hitting the ball. And, Oakland, it is what it is, but it's just way too high for the Yankees. So A's plus 188.
A's Yankees tonight, the final game on the slate. All right, Anthony, what do you got for us?
Going up to Fenway Park, under 9 runs, Toronto and Boston. Look, I like Toronto quite a bit, their offense, but I love both of these starting pitchers too much to get to 9 here, even in a hitter's ballpark like Fenway. Gausman has one of the lowest xFIPs in all of baseball, one of the lowest FIPs. His strikeout minus walk rate continues to be elite, and I don't think the market prices him as good of a pitcher as he is. The market has moved heavily toward him in each of his last few starts, and I think a lot of that has to do with sharp money coming in on Kevin Gausman and realizing the how underrated he is. And Cutter Crawford doesn't have great numbers. If you look at his xERA, it's like 4.5, and his so far 5.6 ERA. But his stuff and his pitching plus numbers are pretty impressive. His strikeout minus walk rate is above average. He doesn't walk a lot of guys. And so he has a decent profile to keep the ball on the ground as a pitcher. So I like the under 9 here.
It's Cutter. That's how you say it. Cutter Crawford.
Yeah, I'm calling it Cutter.
All right. Well, I said
Because
deGrom.
I think that's the if you're a pitcher and your name is
I mean, he does throw a cutter. So thank God.
Exactly. Like, you should be called that.
Right.
And he pitches in Boston. So come on. Like,
right.
If I do the deGoat thing, you can't play along with my vibes. I mean, come on. No? All right. Well, we'll work on that. Very good. Okay. Well, thank you all very much again for tuning in today. We've got those home run picks logged. I don't think Ohtani homered. He didn't. So that's not happening, at least not yet. Tanner. But yeah, that's going to do it for us today, everybody. Best of luck. Also, be sure, today's Thursday. So tomorrow we have Payoff Pitch available on our Action Network podcasts. Available. Payoff Pitch is our exclusive MLB betting podcast. I'm not sure. Are one of you on the show tomorw? I know Zerillo's been out this week. Are you on, Anthony?
BJ.
You get
Say that one more time.
You get to see me again, Brendan.
Great. You're there. And then I would assume Colin Whitchurch is joining us.
Yep.
Okay, very good. So no Anthony, BJ's in, Colin's in. We'll break down the Friday slate tomorrow, Payoff Pitch. It gets released just before the noontime hour, East Coast time. So look forward to that. That's coming tomorrow. Enjoy the games today, everybody. We'll join you next week as this season wraps in Major League Baseball. For Anthony Dabbundo, BJ Cunningham, Brendan Glasheen, thanks for tuning in to Payoff Pitch exclusively on Action Network.